Hello and welcome to another video from Encrypt Coding. Today we're going to be talking about the Java Math class. So what is the Math class? Well, the Math class is a set of pre-written methods in Java which make it easier and less cumbersome for a programmer to perform arithmetic and mathematical operations in Java. These methods can do a number of things. They can help to find values greater than, lesser than, square roots, cube roots, absolute value, angles, and trigonometric values, etc., etc. So how is a math class even better? So consider this code snippet which checks which of two numbers is greater. So as you can see, it's quite obvious in the snippet that the output of this code will be 8. But if we were to write this code using the math class, it would look something like this. As you can see, it's obviously much shorter and much easier to write, and therefore it saves more time for the programmer. So today we will be covering these methods of the math class. The first one is Math.abs, which stands for absolute. So this method returns the absolute value of the number input, which is basically the distance of the number from 0. And so the value is always positive, which means even if the number is negative, it is converted to positive. And the result is always in the data type in which the number was in. So here in the example, you can see int a is equal to -4. So the output will be an int value of +4. The second one is Math.max, which returns the maximum of two numbers input. The numbers input can be of char, integral, or floating point type. The result returned is always of the higher data type. For example, if the data types are char and int, the result will be an int value because int is a higher data type. So here in the example, we can see an int value of 6 and a char b of 3. First, the result will be implicitly promoted to int. So the output will be an int value, and the ASCII value of 3 is 51. So 51 being greater will be the output. The opposite of this is Math.min, which returns the minimum of the two numbers input. Again, the numbers can be char, integral, or floating point, and the result is always the higher data type. So here we can see int a is equal to 4 and float b is 8.0. Now the output will be 4.0 since float is a higher data type and 4 is less than 8. Next is Math.power, which stands for power. And if the user enters two numbers a and b, then this method returns a to the power b, and the result is always a double data type. Also note that if b is equal to 0, then the output will always be 1 because anything to the power 0 is 1. So here you can see in the example, 2 to the power 3 will give you 8, and the result will be a double data type, so 8.0. The next is Math.sqrt, which stands for square root. This method accepts one positive integer and returns its square root value, and the result is always a double value. But also note that if the number entered is negative, then the output will be NaN because negative numbers do not have a square root. So here we can see int a is equal to 9 and int b is equal to -16. The first one will give you 3.0, but since the second number is negative, the output will be NaN. The next one is Math.cbrt, which stands for cube root. So this method accepts one integer and returns its cube root, and the result is always a double value. So here you can see int a is equal to 27 and int b is equal to -64. The first one's output will be 3.0 and the second -4.0. The next is Math.ceil, which stands for ceiling. So I'll explain this with an example. Consider the number 15.45. It's between the numbers 15 and 16. The ceiling will be the higher number between the two, which is 16. And the result is always a double value, and this works on negative numbers as well. So as you can see here, in the first example, 13.23 is between the numbers 13 and 14. And since ceil is the higher number, the output will be 14.0. Similarly, for the second one, -24.06 is between -24 and -25. And since -24 is greater, the output will be -24.0. Opposite to this is Math.floor, which does the opposite. So I'll give another example. Consider the number 45.63. It's between 45 and 46. Now, floor means a lower number since floor is on the bottom. So the lower number between these two is 45. The result is always a double value, and this also works on negative numbers. So in the first example, we can see 16.89 between 16 and 17. So the output will be 16.0. And in the second one, the -36.08 is between -36 and -37. And since -37 is the smaller number, that's the output. The next one is Math.round. And as the name suggests, this is used to round off decimals to the nearest whole number. And the result is always a long value. It's not a double. So here we can see in the first example, when you round off 5.66, it will round up to give you 6. And the second one, 3.45, will round down to give you 3. The next one is Math.random. And this is used to generate a random number between 0 and 1. This method accepts no arguments, the number is completely random, and the result is always a double data type. Now do note that the outputs are subjective because they're different every time. So these are just two outputs which I got, and they will be different for each person. Thank you so much for watching this video from Encrypt Coding. If you liked our videos, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Thank you.